Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to X on the Couch. We're very privileged to have Friska with us today for X on the Couch. I'm just going to choose to either have a rant or a rave. I don't know what that is yet, so it's going to be a surprise for both of us. But Friska, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Obviously, it's your first time with us, so we'd love to hear a little bit more about you and what you do.
Thank you. Yes, it's my first time on the virtual couch. So I'm a change management consultant. I bring digital transformation to life by accelerating adoption and proficiency at scale. And over the years, I've worked for some of the biggest names in mining, engineering, and technology. And I've done changes of all shapes and sizes, operating models, offshoring programs, many process and system implementations, and a few culture changes for good measure as well. So that's me.
Fantastic. And when you define what change management is there an overarching definition for all aspects? You've obviously mentioned a lot of differences there, but is it the same process for everything?
It is. People respond to change through the same way. It's the change curve. They progress at different speeds and they can oscillate back and forth, but largely that's how people respond to change. And so for me, the textbook definition is the discipline that shapes how we help support, equip, and transition individuals to adopt a change to the status quo. And it's becoming even more important, right? I mean, the failure rate for change management projects are 80%, and it hasn't budged for the past 2 decades. And I think this year, especially COVID, has seen the impact of not managing change well. And in some situations, it can be life or death.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at 80% failure rate, that's pretty high. What would you
Yeah.
say is the number one thing that stops these change management pieces assisting organizations to produce the result?
Yeah. So year on year, ProSci benchmarking studies indicate the top two reasons that cause the success or failure of a change is either leadership sponsorship, or obviously the lack of, or it's ineffective, and
Yes.
communication, right? And when you consider key messages don't sink in until you've repeated them 7 to 9 times in different formats in different ways, how many companies actually are that resilient, actually keep going, right? After 3 or 4 times, they usually pick up stumps, say they're not listening, it's not working, and then they change tact. But really, you have to push through that resistance.
Yeah. And so do you start with the communication across the organization, or do you start at the executive level? Do you sort of get the exec on board first and then push it out?
Oh, definitely the top level have to be on board first, because any significant transformation is enabled because they see their leaders walking the talk and people get inspired and they think, oh, actually, this change is actually going to stick, right? Because the number of times a change has been communicated saying, hey, we're doing this, big song and dance, people roll their eyes and their usual response is, I've seen this 3 or 4 times, in a few months it'll be dead. And you know what, they're right.
Yes.
Right. And we know that truly successful, sustainable change is very rare.
And so what do you do that's different to other change managers? Obviously, you've had a great deal of success. Most of the main consultancy firms have change management components to their business. What separates you from the rest of the pack?
I would say my human-centered approach. I'm not a Gantt jockey. I don't hide behind spreadsheets. The success or failure at a change happens one person at the time at the end of the day. And I'm very, very structured in how I engage my stakeholders and uplift the reputation of the change. So, and a good dose of grit, I must say. It's a lot of pushing uphill. Yeah.
But you come across as someone who's very determined, and once the plan's in place, I can see that you'd be able to push that through.
And they know I'm genuine. Like, I'm really not there to try to make anyone's life more difficult. Sometimes the change is happening regardless. You can like it or lump it, but at least help me make your life easier.
Yeah, great. And so you've got the executives on board now. You've thrashed them about, and they're with you on the journey. What's next? What do you do to be able to push forward a project?
So the people that are impacted the most, you start engaging with them, getting their feedback, getting their involvement, their buy-in, and managing resistance as best you can. And just because the execs are on board, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't mean they show up at a kickoff event and then that's it, they put their feet up. No, it's actually, they have to be active, they have to be visible. And from then, that's how I drive desire for the change. And after desire comes knowledge and ability. So knowledge literally means the information that you need to enact the change, right? And the ability is the skills. Like when we think about how we were first learning to ride a bike, we had the knowledge before we got on the bike, right? You hop on, start pedaling your feet, but we still had training wheels on, and it took a while for those training wheels to come off. It's the exact same logic when it comes to change, right? Just because someone knows how to change doesn't mean they can do it. And so when I've developed the ability through training, through on-the-job shadowing, through whatever mechanism, lastly is the reinforcement. So have we achieved the benefits? How are they tracked? How are they monitored? Who's the benefits owner? So making sure the business case of the change is actually realized.
Fantastic. That's actually a really good analogy, the one of riding a bike. I think that everyone will understand that, and you can relate that to the change process. Look, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for joining us on the couch. And obviously that was a great rave for change management and the change management process, and the importance of using that process to be able to engage with senior stakeholders and push projects through to completion and to success. So Friska, thank you very much for joining us today, and I look forward to working with you.
You're welcome. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.